The balance of power in the Middle East has always been precarious, a complex web of alliances, rivalries, and unspoken red lines. Today, the region faces an inflection point. The recent missile strike by Iran on Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar was not just a dramatic escalation. It was a carefully calculated warning. If the fragile ceasefire collapses, the conflict will not simply revert to old patterns. Instead, Iran may ignite a far broader confrontation, targeting not just Israel, but the entire network of U.S. allies that encircle it. Understanding this possibility requires insight into Iran's strategy, its capabilities, and the vulnerabilities of the region's intricate alliance system. Iran's approach to warfare is shaped by its recognition of military asymmetry. Direct confrontation with the United States or Israel is fraught with risk. Instead, Tehran prefers to operate across multiple theaters, leveraging proxies and precision strikes to exert pressure and sow confusion. If the ceasefire unravels, Iran is unlikely to focus its wrath solely on Israel. Instead, Saudi Arabia and other Gulf allies, seen as pillars of Western influence and support, could become primary targets. This would be a campaign waged not in a single country, but across the heart of the Middle East. Saudi Arabia stands at the crossroads of this potential escalation. For decades, Riyadh has been both a regional powerhouse and a close partner of Washington. It hosts U.S. military personnel, maintains vital oil infrastructure, and sits at the center of the global energy market. Its indirect support for Israeli operations and deep military cooperation with the United States make it a natural focal point for Iranian retaliation. The missile strike on Qatar's Al Udeid base was a signal. Iran is willing to challenge the U.S. presence in the region. Saudi Arabia, with its symbolic and strategic importance, could well be next. The list of potential targets in Saudi Arabia is as obvious as it is alarming. The Abqaiq oil processing facility, previously struck by Iranian drones in 2019, remains a tempting target. Disrupting its operations would send shockwaves through global energy markets, raising prices and rattling economies far beyond the Middle East. U.S. military bases, such as Prince Sultan Air Base, are also vulnerable, presenting an opportunity for Iran to inflict damage on American assets without risking direct attacks on the U.S. homeland. And then there is the vast Aramco infrastructure: pipelines, refineries, export terminals, each one a potential point of leverage in Tehran's strategy of pressure. But Iran's reach extends well beyond Saudi borders. The United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, both members of the Abraham Accords and hosts to Western military forces, are prominent in Iran's sights. Bahrain is home to the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet, a critical node in American maritime operations. The UAE, with its advanced missile defenses and open relationship with Israel, represents another high-profile partner in the Western alliance. Strikes on these countries would not only disrupt military operations, but also carry powerful symbolic weight, challenging the very cohesion of the U.S.-led regional order. Other countries, such as Jordan and Kuwait, are not immune. The supply routes and intelligence hubs that pass through their territories are vulnerable to disruption. Even Oman, a nation that has historically played a neutral, mediating role, could find itself caught in the crossfire or used as a corridor for Iranian or proxy operations. Iran's ability to stretch U.S. defenses thin across multiple fronts complicates any coordinated response, making it harder for America and its allies to anticipate, let alone contain, the next phase of conflict. Underlying Iran's willingness to escalate is a cold strategic calculation. The leadership in Tehran is acutely aware of American domestic pressures. With the U.S. presidential election approaching, troop fatigue mounting, and global markets on edge, Iran sees an opportunity. By striking U.S. allies rather than the U.S. directly, Tehran can raise the costs of continued confrontation without provoking an overwhelming American response. This is a gamble, a bet that Washington and Jerusalem will hesitate to escalate a regional war that threatens oil supplies, global economies, and voter sentiment back home. If the ceasefire fails and Iran unleashes its full spectrum of proxies, the region could be plunged into chaos. The Houthis in Yemen, already adept at launching drones and missiles toward Saudi ports, would likely intensify their attacks, targeting both economic infrastructure and military assets. Hezbollah in Lebanon, perhaps Iran's most capable and loyal proxy, could open a new front in the south, drawing Israel into a multi-front war. In Iraq, militias aligned with Tehran might strike at American forces, while Syrian militias could reignite the corridor to Damascus, threatening Israel from yet another direction. Iran's Ring of Fire strategy is designed to overwhelm and disorient, ensuring that Tehran never fights alone. The consequences of such a regional conflagration would be felt far beyond the Middle East. Any sustained assault on Saudi or Gulf ally infrastructure would send oil prices soaring, destabilizing global markets, and triggering economic uncertainty worldwide. NATO and Western allies would be forced to reconsider their commitments and strategies in the region, faced with the prospect of a widening conflict and the risk of being drawn into direct hostilities. For the United States, the credibility of its deterrence is at stake. Failure to respond decisively after the Qatar strike and any subsequent attacks could embolden Iran and its proxies, giving Tehran a freer hand to reshape the region's balance of power. In the end, the stakes could not be higher. If the ceasefire fails, Iran will not simply return to business as usual with Israel. Instead, it is likely to adopt a regional approach, targeting the web of U.S. alliances that underpin the current order. Saudi Arabia, central to both the military and economic architecture of the Middle East, will be at the forefront of this campaign, a symbol and a prize. The Gulf states, entwined with Western interests and now proven vulnerable, could face unprecedented disruption and destruction. The next battle in this unfolding crisis may not take place in Tel Aviv or Gaza, but in the oil fields of eastern Saudi Arabia, the bustling ports of the UAE, or the strategic bases of Bahrain. As the world watches, the fuse has been lit. The coming weeks may determine not just the fate of the ceasefire, but the very architecture of security and power in the Middle East for years to come. As these events continue to unfold, understanding the intricate dynamics of the Middle East has never been more important. Stay informed by following our updates, where we break down the latest developments and their global impact. Join our community for in-depth analysis, expert insights, and thoughtful discussion on the issues shaping our world today. Don't miss out. Subscribe and engage with us as we navigate these critical moments together and explore what lies ahead for the region.